Jung's most disturbing discovery about empaths wasn't that they attract predators, it was that they become them. In 1923, a woman returned to Jung's office 3 years after completing her therapeutic work with him. She'd done everything he taught her, confronted her shadow, set boundaries, stopped attracting narcissists completely. She seemed transformed, confident, clear, powerful, but she came back because people in her life were calling her cold, manipulative, even narcissistic. Her friends said they couldn't talk to her anymore without feeling judged. Her new partner said she was controlling. Her sister said she'd become cruel. She was confused, devastated even. She'd done the work. She'd healed. How could people accuse her of being exactly what she'd escaped? Jung listened to her describe her relationships, how she handled conflict, what happened when people showed vulnerability around her. Then he said something that shattered her completely. You haven't failed at healing. You've succeeded so completely that you've crossed an invisible line from prey to predator, from wounded healer to psychological threat. And you have no idea it happened. Jung wrote in his private notes, "The integrated shadow doesn't make you whole. It makes you dangerous." Most people who cross this threshold never recognize they've become what they once feared. They believe their cruelty is strength, their coldness is boundaries, their need to dominate is self-protection. This discovery was too dangerous to publish during Jung's lifetime because it revealed something no one wanted to acknowledge. Healing your wounds can transform you into the person who creates them. The empath who spent years being destroyed by narcissists doesn't just heal. She integrates the predator's tactics, his coldness, his manipulation, his need for control, and she tells herself it's empowerment. Today I'm going to show you the 4 signs you've crossed from wounded healer to shadow predator, the 3 psychological triggers that cause this reversal, Jung's method for reclaiming your power without becoming what you escaped, and why most people who make this transformation never recognize it until they've destroyed everyone around them. Because Jung found that this shadow reversal happens to almost everyone who successfully integrates their darkness. The question isn't whether you'll cross the line, it's whether you'll recognize it when you do. The woman who returned to Jung in 1923 had been what we'd now call a classic empath. She'd spent her 20s in 3 devastating relationships with men who systematically destroyed her: narcissists, emotional vampires, psychological predators who recognized her sensitivity and exploited it with surgical precision. By the time she came to Jung the first time, she was suicidal. No sense of self, no boundaries, no idea where her feelings ended and others began. Jung worked with her for 2 years: shadow integration, animus development, boundary formation. By the time she left his practice, she was unrecognizable, strong, clear, able to say no without guilt, able to recognize manipulation before it started, able to walk away from people who tried to use her. She believed she was healed, and for a while everyone in her life agreed. Her friends celebrated her transformation. Her family said she finally seemed happy. She started a new relationship with a man who seemed healthy, stable, kind. Then things started shifting. She noticed her friends stopped confiding in her. When they tried to share problems, she felt impatient, annoyed. She'd point out what they were doing wrong with surgical accuracy. She told herself she was just being honest, helping them see their patterns. But they started avoiding her. Her relationship began having problems. Her partner said she was controlling, that she needed to make every decision, that she couldn't let him lead anything without criticizing how he did it. She told herself he was just weak, that she'd finally developed standards and he couldn't meet them. Her sister stopped speaking to her after she told her exactly why her marriage was failing. She'd meant to help, to use her newfound clarity to show her sister what she couldn't see. Her sister called it cruel. When she came back to Jung, she was genuinely confused. She'd done the work. She wasn't absorbing everyone's emotions anymore. She had boundaries. She was powerful. Why was everyone treating her like she was the problem? Jung spent the session asking her to describe specific interactions. how she responded when her partner showed vulnerability, what she said when friends came to her with problems, how she handled her sister's pain. With each example, Jung's expression grew more serious. Finally, he asked her a question that changed everything. "When your partner cries, what do you feel?" She thought about it. "Nothing, really. I just see that he's being dramatic." "When your friends share their problems, what happens inside you?" "I feel annoyed, like I can see exactly what they're doing wrong and they just keep making the same mistakes." "And when your sister was hurting, what did you want to do?" "Fix it. Tell her the truth so she'd stop being a victim." Jung was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You've become what you feared. Not despite healing, but because of it. You've integrated your shadow so completely that you've identified with it. The narcissist's coldness, the predator's need for control, the abuser's inability to feel others' pain. You're not wielding these as tools. You've become them." The woman was devastated, but the more Jung explained what he was seeing, the more she recognized it was true. She'd crossed a line she didn't know existed. From empowered to cruel, from boundaried to closed, from strong to dominating. And she'd convinced herself every step of the way that she was just being healthy. Jung would spend the next decade documenting this pattern in dozens of patients. People who successfully integrated their shadow then couldn't tell the difference between power and cruelty, between boundaries and walls, between strength and domination. He called it the shadow reversal. The moment the victim becomes the victimizer, the prey becomes the predator. And he found that most people who cross this line never come back, because they're convinced they've finally become who they were meant to be. Jung documented 4 specific signs that distinguish healthy integration from shadow reversal. If you recognize 2 or more of these in yourself, you've crossed the line from empowered to predatory. Jung wrote, "The clearest sign of shadow reversal is the disappearance of empathic response to genuine suffering. Not compassion fatigue, actual indifference to pain. Before your healing, you absorbed everyone's emotions. Someone cried, you cried. Someone hurt, you hurt. It was exhausting, overwhelming. It nearly destroyed you. After integration, you learned to distinguish between their emotions and yours. You could witness pain without absorbing it. This was healthy. But then something shifted. Now when someone shows genuine vulnerability, when they cry, when they're scared, when they're hurting, you feel nothing. Not compassion, not even mild concern, just cold observation. You watch them cry and think, they're being dramatic. They're manipulating me. They need to get over it. You've started using words like emotional manipulation to describe any display of feeling. You say people are weaponizing their tears when they're just genuinely upset. Jung observed, she mistakes her numbness for clarity, her inability to be moved by others' pain as strength. She doesn't realize she's not witnessing without absorbing. She's simply stopped feeling. You probably tell yourself, I just don't fall for emotional manipulation anymore. But here's the truth. Healthy integration means you can witness pain without being destroyed by it. Shadow reversal means you can witness pain without being moved by it at all. The difference is everything. If you find yourself completely unmoved when someone you supposedly care about is genuinely suffering, you haven't developed boundaries. You've developed cruelty. Jung documented, the reversed shadow takes the gift of perception and transforms it into a tool for psychological warfare. She sees people's unconscious patterns with accuracy, but instead of using this sight to understand, she uses it to wound. One of the most powerful gifts you developed through shadow work was clarity. You can see behavioral patterns, recognize manipulation, understand people's unconscious motivations. Before healing, this clarity was drowned out by your empathic absorption. You'd see that someone was using you, but you'd make excuses for them. After healthy integration, you use this clarity to protect yourself. You see manipulation and you exit. You recognize patterns and you make informed choices. But in shadow reversal, you use your clarity to hurt people. Someone shares a problem with you. Instead of listening with compassion, you dissect their psychology with surgical precision. You point out exactly what they're doing wrong. You tell them why they keep repeating their patterns. You help by showing them all their flaws. You frame this as honesty, as telling the truth they need to hear. But watch what happens to people after you help them with your clarity. Do they feel supported, understood, empowered, or do they feel exposed, ashamed, smaller? Jung wrote, "The shadow predator weaponizes truth." She's technically accurate in her observations, but accuracy without compassion is cruelty. You probably say things like, "I'm just being honest." They need to hear this. Someone has to tell them the truth. But honest question, are you using your clarity to help them grow? Or to prove you're more aware than they are? Are you reflecting their patterns so they can heal? Or so they'll know you see through them completely? Healthy integration means you have the gift of clarity and you use it sparingly, strategically, with people who've asked for it and can handle it. Shadow reversal means you use your clarity like a weapon. You can't resist showing people that you see their unconscious patterns. You get satisfaction from exposing them. That satisfaction is the tell. If you enjoy the moment someone realizes you've seen through them completely, you're not wielding clarity, you're wielding cruelty. Jung observed, "The most disturbing sign of shadow reversal is when the healed empath becomes uncomfortable with others' strength. She unconsciously needs to be the powerful one in every dynamic. Think about your relationships now, your friendships, your romantic partnership, your family dynamics. What happens when someone else is strong, confident, doesn't need your advice? Do you feel happy for them, comfortable, at ease? Or do you feel unnecessary, threatened, vaguely uncomfortable?" Jung documented that shadow-reversed empaths become addicted to being needed. Not in the old way, where you absorbed everyone's pain, in a new way, where you need others to be weaker than you so you can feel secure in your power. Watch what happens when a friend becomes confident. Do you celebrate? Or do you subtly point out areas where they're still struggling? When your partner handles something well without your input, do you feel proud? Or do you find something wrong with how they did it? When someone in your life stops needing your advice, do you feel relieved? Or do you unconsciously create situations where they'll need you again? Jung wrote, "She unconsciously sabotages others' growth because their weakness is the only context where her strength feels real." You probably tell yourself, "I'm just keeping them realistic. They're getting overconfident. Someone needs to keep them humble." But the truth is darker. You've become comfortable being the strong one, the powerful one, the one with clarity. And other people's strength threatens that position, so you keep them down, subtly, unconsciously. A critical comment here, a dismissive response there, just enough to remind them that you're the powerful one. This is predatory behavior. You're not helping them. You're keeping them dependent so you can feel superior. Healthy integration means you're genuinely happy when others become strong. You don't need to be the most powerful person in every dynamic. Shadow reversal means you're only comfortable with people you can look down on, and the moment someone rises to meet you as an equal, you find a way to knock them back down. Jung's most damning observation: the shadow-reversed empath discovers that she's only interested in damaged people. Healthy relationships feel flat. She creates drama to feel alive. Before healing, you attracted predators and narcissists. The relationships were toxic, but they were intense. You felt alive in the chaos, needed in the crisis. That intensity was addictive even as it destroyed you. After healing, you thought you'd finally be attracted to healthy, stable people. And for a while, maybe you were. But now, healthy people bore you. The stable partner who communicates clearly and has no drama. You feel nothing. Where's the intensity, the challenge, the psychological complexity? the friends with healthy boundaries and functional lives, conversations feel shallow. There's nothing to fix, nothing to analyze, nothing to do. You find yourself drawn to the same type of broken, chaotic people you used to attract, but now you tell yourself it's different. You're not their victim. You're in control. You're the powerful one. Jung wrote, "She needs their brokenness the way the predator needs prey, not to be destroyed by it, but to feed on it, to feel powerful in comparison, to have something to fix so she never has to face her own emptiness." You probably tell yourself, "Healthy people just don't have depth. I need intensity in my relationships. There's no chemistry with stable people." But here's what you're not admitting. You're addicted to the exact same dynamics that nearly destroyed you. You've just reversed your position in them. Before, you were the empath being drained by narcissists. Now, you're the narcissist draining empaths. Same dysfunction, same addiction to intensity, same inability to tolerate healthy, stable connection. You've just switched roles. Healthy integration means you can finally appreciate stable, emotionally mature people. You find depth in connection that doesn't require crisis. Shadow reversal means you're still addicted to toxicity. You just need to be the powerful one in it now. And if you can't find drama, you create it. Because without chaos to manage, you have no idea who you are. Jung identified 3 specific psychological triggers that transform healthy shadow integration into predatory reversal. Understanding which trigger activated in you is the first step toward reclamation. Jung documented, "The empath with no boundaries, upon learning to set them, often cannot stop. She swings from completely porous to completely impenetrable, from absorbing everything to feeling nothing. You spent years with no boundaries. Everyone's emotions became yours. You said yes when you meant no. You stayed in situations that destroyed you because leaving felt impossible. Shadow work taught you to set boundaries, finally. And it felt incredible, powerful. Like you'd found a superpower you didn't know existed. But you didn't learn boundaries. You learned walls. Real boundaries are flexible. They let safe people in while keeping unsafe people out. They protect without isolating. They're strong but permeable. What you built aren't boundaries. They're fortifications. No one gets in now. Not because they're unsafe. Because you've decided everyone is unsafe. You don't evaluate whether someone deserves your trust. You've decided trust itself is weakness. Jung observed, "She confuses intimacy with danger, vulnerability with victimhood. Any request for emotional connection feels like manipulation. Someone asks how you're really doing. You say fine and change the subject, not because you're protecting yourself from an unsafe person, because you've decided that sharing anything real makes you weak. Your partner wants emotional closeness. You interpret this as neediness and pull away, not because they're actually needy, because you've decided that anyone who wants emotional connection is trying to trap you." Jung wrote, "The overcorrected boundary doesn't protect, it imprisons. She's not safe behind her walls, she's alone. Healthy boundaries let you choose who gets access to your inner world based on whether they've earned it. Overcorrected boundaries let no one in, ever, under any circumstances. And you call this strength, but it's not strength. It's terror disguised as power." Jung documented, "The woman who has never known power becomes addicted to it the moment she tastes it. She cannot hold it lightly. She wields it like a weapon against everyone. You spent your entire life powerless, controlled by narcissists, trapped in dynamics where you had no voice, no choice, no control. Shadow integration gave you power for the first time, and it felt like oxygen after drowning. The ability to say no and mean it, to leave relationships that don't serve you, to refuse to absorb others' chaos, to decide how you'll be treated. This power was supposed to liberate you. Instead, it intoxicated you. You didn't learn to hold power. You became drunk on it. Now you use power everywhere, over everyone. Not because you need to protect yourself, because you're addicted to the feeling of control. Your partner makes a minor mistake. You make sure they know who's in charge. A friend disagrees with you. You subtly let them know their opinion doesn't matter as much as yours. Someone shows vulnerability. You use that vulnerability to establish dominance. Jung wrote, "She cannot hold power lightly because she's never held it before. Like someone starving who finally gets food, she cannot stop consuming. She gorges on power until she's consumed by it." You probably tell yourself, "I'm just not accepting disrespect anymore. I've finally learned my worth. I won't be controlled." But no one's trying to control you. You're the one trying to control everyone. Because the feeling of power is the only thing that makes you feel safe, and you'll do anything to maintain it. Healthy integration means you have power, and you use it when necessary to protect yourself. Power intoxication means you have power, and you use it constantly to dominate others. The difference is, one protects, the other destroys. Jung's most important observation: the greatest danger in shadow work is not rejecting your darkness, it's identifying with it, believing that your shadow is your true self. Shadow integration means acknowledging the dark parts of yourself you've rejected, your anger, your selfishness, your capacity for cruelty, your manipulative instincts. The goal is to integrate these qualities so they're available when needed, but not driving your behavior unconsciously. But what many people do instead is identify with their shadow completely. You discovered you have anger. Instead of integrating it, you became an angry person. You discovered you can be selfish. Instead of accessing this strategically, you became completely self-focused. You discovered you have manipulative capacities. Instead of recognizing this as a shadow quality to be aware of, you started using manipulation as your primary tool. Jung wrote, "She mistakes her shadow for her authentic self. She believes that because she's always suppressed her anger, her real nature is angry. Because she's always prioritized others, her true self must be completely selfish. But your shadow isn't your true self. It's the opposite of your false self. But opposite doesn't mean true. Your true self integrates both, light and dark, kindness and cruelty, selflessness and selfishness, strength and vulnerability. Shadow reversal happens when you reject your light completely and identify only with darkness. You were too soft, so now you believe being hard is authentic. You were too giving, so now you believe being selfish is real. You were too trusting, so now you believe suspicion is wisdom." Jung observed, "She has simply traded one false self for another. Before she played only the light, now she plays only the dark. Neither is true. Both are masks. The person you've become after shadow work, cold, controlling, cruel, isn't your real self any more than the doormat you were before. They're both extremes, both defensive structures, both ways of avoiding your actual wholeness. Real integration means you can access your shadow when needed without being consumed by it. Shadow identification means your shadow is all you are now, and you're just as false as you were before, just harder, meaner, more alone." Jung developed a specific protocol for people who'd crossed from empowered to predatory. It's brutal. Most people refuse to do it because it requires admitting something unbearable, that your healing made you dangerous. Jung's first requirement was devastating. You must admit, out loud, to yourself, without justification, that you've become what you feared. Not, "I have some predatory behaviors," not, "I've overcorrected in some areas." The full admission, "I've become a predator. I'm cruel. I dominate others. I use my clarity to wound. I need people weak. I've turned my healing into a weapon." Jung made patients write this admission daily for 30 days. No qualifiers, no excuses, just the raw truth. "I've become what destroyed me." Most people quit at this stage because admitting you're the problem after spending years being victimized feels impossible, unbearable. You want to say, "But I'm not as bad as they were. I'm just protecting myself." They're too sensitive. Jung refused to let patients hide behind these defenses. He wrote, "Until she admits she's dangerous, She'll continue justifying her cruelty as strength. The admission must be complete, without comparison to others, without explanation, just the truth. I have become predatory. Journal this for 30 days, every morning, before anything else. I've crossed the line from empowered to cruel. I use my power to dominate. I've become what I escaped. Your ego will scream. Your defenses will rage. You'll want to quit. Do it anyway. Because you cannot reclaim power you won't admit you're misusing. Once you've admitted the reversal, Jung's second phase requires something even harder. Reconnecting with your capacity to be affected by others' pain. Jung called this controlled reopening, not returning to the porous boundaries that destroyed you, but intentionally allowing yourself to feel compassion again. The practice is simple but psychologically demanding. Each day, find one moment when someone shows genuine vulnerability. A friend shares a problem, your partner expresses fear, a family member is struggling. Instead of your automatic response, observation without feeling, advice without compassion, analysis without empathy, do this. Stop. Breathe. Ask yourself, what if I let myself feel moved by this? Not absorbed, not destroyed, not responsible for fixing it. Just moved. Let their pain touch you. Let yourself care. Let compassion exist without action. Jung wrote, she's terrified that feeling anything for others means returning to absorption. So she's locked herself behind complete numbness. The vulnerability practice teaches her there's a middle path. She can be moved without being destroyed. This will feel wrong at first. Dangerous. Like you're betraying your healing. You're not. You're distinguishing between healthy compassion and unhealthy absorption. Absorption meant their pain becomes yours. You can't function until you fix them. Their emotions control your entire state. Compassion means you feel for them. You're moved by their suffering, but you remain yourself. You can witness without being destroyed. The vulnerability practice rebuilds your capacity for compassion without returning you to victimhood. Do this daily for 90 days. Let yourself be moved. Let yourself care. Let others' humanity touch yours, without absorbing, without fixing, without making it your responsibility. Just feel, and remain whole while feeling. Jung's final phase requires learning what most people never achieve: holding power without cruelty, being strong without dominating, having boundaries without building walls. He called this sovereign compassion, power that protects without destroying, clarity that illuminates without wounding, strength that lifts rather than crushes. The practice requires you to examine every interaction where you hold power. When you're about to give feedback, ask, is this meant to help them or to show them I'm superior? When you're setting a boundary, ask, is this protecting me or punishing them? When you're using your clarity, ask, am I reflecting their pattern so they can heal, or exposing them so they'll feel smaller? Jung wrote, the difference between empowerment and predation isn't what you do, it's why you do it. Sovereign compassion means you have all the power the shadow gave you, the clarity, the boundaries, the strength, but you wield it in service of protection, not domination. Real power doesn't need to crush others to feel strong. Real boundaries don't need to hurt others to feel safe. Real clarity doesn't need to wound others to feel accurate. The practice is asking before every use of power, am I protecting or dominating? If you're protecting yourself, your peace, your energy from genuine threat, that's sovereignty. If you're dominating, proving your superiority, establishing control, making them feel small, that's predation. Learn the difference. Choose sovereignty every single time. Jung documented 2 patients who both experienced shadow reversal. One recognized it and reclaimed her humanity. One didn't and remained predatory for the rest of her life. The patient from 1923 who returned to Jung did something most people cannot do. She admitted it. After Jung showed her what she'd become, she didn't defend herself. didn't justify her behavior, didn't compare herself to the narcissists who'd destroyed her. She said, "You're right. I've become cruel. I don't feel anything when people hurt. I use my power to control them. I've become what I escaped." Then she cried. Actually cried. For the first time since completing her shadow work. Jung noted, the tears were the first sign of hope. She was letting herself feel again, not absorption, just genuine grief for what she'd done to others, while convinced she was being strong. She did Jung's protocol, the daily admission, the vulnerability practice, the power examination. For 6 months she struggled. Her ego fought against every step. She wanted to quit daily, but she continued. Slowly something shifted. She could feel compassion without being destroyed by it. She could hold boundaries without cruelty. She could be powerful without needing others weak. A year later, she returned to Jung one final time. She said, "The people I hurt while I was reversed, most of them won't speak to me now. I don't blame them. I was dangerous, but the ones who've let me back in say I'm different, still strong, but not cruel anymore. They say I can hold my power and my heart at the same time now." Jung wrote, "She achieved what few do, sovereignty with compassion, power with humanity. She is dangerous to predators, but safe for genuine people. This is true integration." Jung documented another patient 5 years later who experienced identical shadow reversal, but she couldn't admit it. When Jung pointed out her predatory behaviors, her coldness, her need to dominate, her weaponized clarity, she became defensive. "I'm not cruel. I'm boundaried. I'm not controlling. I'm protecting myself. I'm not cold. I'm just not falling for manipulation anymore." She had an explanation for every behavior, a justification for every cruelty. Jung noted, "She cannot admit what she's become because her entire identity is now built on being the powerful one. To admit she's predatory would mean admitting she's no better than those who destroyed her. Her ego cannot tolerate this." She left Jung's practice convinced he was wrong, that he couldn't understand her healing because he'd never been victimized the way she had. Jung followed her case for the next decade through mutual acquaintances. She went through 3 more relationships. Each ended with the partner saying she was controlling, emotionally abusive, narcissistic. She lost most of her friendships. People said they couldn't be around her anymore, that she made them feel small. Her family distanced themselves. They said she'd become impossible, critical, cold. Through it all, she maintained that they were the problem. They were too sensitive, too weak. They couldn't handle her strength. Jung wrote in his final note about her, "She will remain predatory for the rest of her life because she cannot admit what she's become. She has mistaken cruelty for strength, domination for empowerment, isolation for sovereignty, and she is utterly convinced she's healed." What separated these 2 women? One thing, the willingness to admit you've become dangerous. The woman who healed could say, "I've crossed the line. I've become cruel. I need to change this." The woman who stayed predatory said, "Everyone else is the problem. They just can't handle my power." Jung observed, "The ability to admit you've become predatory is the only thing that makes reclamation possible. Without this admission, all your cruelty becomes justified, and you remain a predator convinced you're a survivor." Most people who experience shadow reversal never come back, because admitting you've become what destroyed you is more painful than anything your original abusers did, but it's the only way back to your humanity. Jung wrote about the patient who successfully reversed her shadow predation. After 3 years of believing she'd healed, she discovered she'd simply traded one false self for another. The doormat became the dominator. The victim became the victimizer. Only when she could admit this reversal could she finally become whole. You did the work. You confronted your shadow. You set boundaries. You became powerful. And somewhere along the way, without realizing it, you crossed a line. From strong to cruel. From boundaried to closed. from empowered to dominating. This doesn't mean your healing was fake. It means healing is more complex than you realized. Integration isn't just claiming your dark qualities. It's learning to hold them without being consumed by them. Power isn't just refusing to be controlled. It's having strength without needing to crush others. Boundaries aren't just saying no. They're protecting yourself without building walls that isolate you completely. The signs are clear. If you feel nothing when people genuinely hurt, if you use your clarity to wound, if you need others weak to feel strong, if only broken people interest you, you've crossed the line. But here's what Jung believed with absolute certainty. Recognition is the first step back. The moment you can admit, without justification, without comparison, without defense, that you've become predatory, you can begin reclamation. It requires brutal honesty, daily admission of what you've become, vulnerability practice to reconnect with compassion, constant examination of whether you're protecting or dominating. Most people won't do this work. They'll continue justifying their cruelty as strength, their isolation as sovereignty, their need to control as boundaries, and they'll stay predatory, convinced they're healed. But if you can admit what you've become, you can transform again, this time into something real, not the doormat you were before, not the predator you became, but something integrated, powerful and compassionate, strong and vulnerable, dangerous to threats, but safe for genuine connection. Jung called this true sovereignty, and it's only possible when you can hold your shadow without becoming it. Comment below if you recognize any of these signs in yourself. Sign 1 for feeling nothing, sign 2 for weaponized clarity, sign 3 for needing others weak, sign 4 for being bored by healthy people. Your admission connects you with others doing this work. You're not alone in this reversal. If this revealed something about yourself you didn't want to see, that's the point. Hit that like button. You've taken the first step toward real integration. Subscribe for more of Jung's discoveries about the shadow work nobody talks about, the parts of integration that can destroy you if you don't understand them. You became powerful. Now comes the harder part. Staying powerful without becoming cruel. Jung proved it's possible, but only if you're willing to admit what you've become.